I apologize in advance that I have no energy today. It's just been one of those weeks where we are struggling to catch our breath. It feels like everything is falling apart and changing. You've heard the three major stories at this point. They're all different lanes, but the West is now at a crossroads. Charlie Kirk was murdered on a stage in Utah, and I can't believe I'm saying those words. Israel's striking Hamas leadership in Doha, and that has its own significance. The United Nations is pushing a path to Palestinian statehood. They're all different headlines, but they're the same fork in the road. Are we still willing to defend our values, or are we going to keep surrendering them? I'm Meira, and this is the Meira K Show on JNS TV. Charlie Kirk was 31. I was privileged to know him. He built Turning Point USA into one of the largest conservative youth movements in America, if not the biggest one. If you're under 30, you knew exactly who he was. Love him or hate him, you knew him. He thrived on debate. He walked into hostile campuses and said, "Challenge me." He stood for family and for faith and for freedom. He kept Shabbat. He was a devout Christian. He loved America and he defended Israel. And he leaves behind Erica and their two beautiful, beautiful toddlers. Tuesday night, the video started circulating. Charlie shot in the neck on stage while talking to students on a campus in Utah. I will never forget where I was when I saw it and when I heard he hadn't survived. Within 72 hours, thank God, a suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, was in custody, reportedly after his father flagged him to authorities. Prosecutors are weighing the death penalty, as they should. Investigators are still trying to figure out, why did this kid do it? But the core truth is obvious. Someone decided ideas are a killable offense. Here's why this matters. Charlie didn't command political power. He commanded attention, and he invited argument. That's why he was killed. Killing him isn't politics like the normal murders we're used to. It's a direct attack on a rule that holds free society together. Words are answered with words, not bullets. It's not for nothing that free speech is an amendment in the Constitution. It's the first thing they come after when they try to control you. The moment a culture treats speech as violence, violence becomes the response to speech. And that's the response we have seen on the left in the West. Yes, some condemned it, but far too many didn't. You saw the celebrations. You saw the "now you know how Palestinians feel." You saw the disgusting and cynical use of Charlie's murder to push gun control. It's unacceptable. It's so unacceptable that we are even seeing people on the left denounce liberalism due to the sheer evil of them celebrating him being killed. But I'm actually not here to talk about how far gone the left is, because you all already know that. In the words of J.K. Rowling, if you believe political opponents should be punished with violence or death, you're a terrorist. Enough's enough. I want to talk about what's actually happening now with the right, because they're the one who are going to make this death mean something more, and we have to. We have to make it mean something more. The reactions across the right and the center have ranged from shock and genuine mourning to intense conviction. People who weren't even fans said this can't be. This can't be. Yes, fringe conspiracists have tried to their nonsense. Mossad did it, Netanyahu's behind this, it's Israel, but even they have got swatted by voices who usually tolerate these theories. I'm talking about Cenk and Dave Smith and even Myron Gaines. The mainstream right came out unified on one thing: free speech must be protected, period. Charlie's legacy needs to be a turn towards God, a serious shift in our culture war to help save America from within. Look, we don't yet know the political motives of the murderer, and we don't honestly need to over-speculate. The case is active, and regardless where he's from, this is what matters. A 22-year-old from what appears to be a normal family was radicalized on campus and online to the extent that he was willing to kill somebody. The mix we've been warning about, normalizing violence and hate, dehumanization of opposing opinions, and university online environments that reward moral hysteria over debate have real consequences, and we can no longer wait to change it. People who never met Charlie felt this in their bones. Something about this crossed a red line. This isn't the left saying crazy things anymore. It's an attack on opinions. And honestly, that's how free societies die. So here's the fork in the road for the West. Do we pretend this is just one incident, or do we confront the culture that blesses violence against people who we disagree with? Do we hide, self-censor, and hope the mob passes us by, or do we double down on conviction and argument and debate? You see, ideas outlive assassins, but only if we defend the spaces where ideas can live. In his life, Charlie was a legend. In his death, however, he's going to be a revolution. But believe it or not, before the story of Charlie broke and it feels like that time never existed, we had another earthquake. Israel finally carried out the strike in Qatar Doha aimed at Hamas leadership, the men who have lived like princes in Qatar whilst ordering massacres in Gaza. We don't yet know if this succeeded. A tweet from Bibi last night makes it sound like maybe they didn't get them all, but actually the story here is much bigger than if the leadership is dead or not. What happened with the strike was one of the most significant military operations that Israel has taken since the start of the war. So let's break it down. By now, you already know that Qatar are just terrorists in suits. They have been funding Gaza, funding the takeover of university campuses, pretending to negotiate for hostages, housing the leftover Hamas leadership. They have done all of this by creating a perception of them being a serious player in the international arena and have gotten the US to be their allies, which obviously means that Israel really can't touch them. Now, as the war has progressed, we have repeatedly spoken about how our war goals are to eliminate Hamas and get the hostages home. However, Qatar have become the roadblock to this. If they have the leadership and won't give them up, then how does Hamas end? And if they are supporting Hamas and are leading the negotiations to get the hostages home, then the hostages are never going to come back. I've been asked repeatedly if this attack was a good thing, and to me, despite the price we could potentially pay, this could impact the Abraham Accords, etc., I believe it really was. Most definitely. And here's why. Despite claims from both Netanyahu and Trump that this was entirely Israel's doing, there is no chance that the US did not agree to it beforehand. Publicly, they may be presenting an ununited front, but behind the scenes, I believe Netanyahu saved Trump from a big public humiliation from Hamas. You see, I don't think for 1 second that Hamas were going to agree to the ultimatum set by Trump and that all the hostages were going to be released on the first day or Hamas were really going to pay. It's been 2 years, and yes, we've advanced a lot in Gaza City, credit where it's due, which is scaring Hamas a lot. But as long as their leadership are safe, they have no reason to give in, they being the leadership. When Hamas said there was going to be an escalation, this was honestly the last card that Israel had that Israel hadn't really touched, taking out the leadership. And now, with Israel willing to take the steps against them, even if they are in Qatar, which is precious to the US, Israel has sent the message loud and clear to the world and the Middle East. You can run, but you can't hide. Come for Israel and you will pay the price. And here, strength means peace. To all those asking me about how this impacts the hostages and the negotiations, I'm here to say that those negotiations were a farce. The hostages were never coming home with Qatar keeping their games up. So yes, there are big implications to this. Trump has promised that it won't happen again. They have their base, their big military base and economic interests to protect. And Netanyahu has said that we actually might. And yes, Qatar and other states are debating how to respond. But Israel right now is really at a crossroads because something fundamental has shifted. This is about how you deal with terror. No caveats and excuses, clear red lines. And the Middle East, my friends, is noticing. Juggling the West and the Middle East is super complicated. Potentially harming relationships with the US is no simple bet. But this conundrum is one that the whole West is facing. Do we play nice in the face of terror, or do we show them that we have serious backbone? Qatar plays both sides. The US based on one hand, billions into Gaza and a megaphone through Al Jazeera on the other. Israel is setting the precedent, and the West is going to have to choose. By the way, look around. There's a public mood shift. You can feel people snapping out of the trance. 3 million in the UK marching with flags last night, standing proud for their country against immigration. There's a change coming, and that change is what we needed now to win. Get the hostages home and save the West from what's coming if we don't. Do we keep prioritizing appearances, soothing statements, partners who bankroll terror, or do we accept that strength is the only language that moves violent actors? And talking about partners who love terror, our third big story of the week is the UN General Assembly decision that voted 142 to 10, 12 abstained to endorse a Palestinian state. Ugh. The declaration's language pushed tangible, time-bound, irreversible steps towards a Palestinian state, calling for hostages' release and an end to the war, and condemning Hamas 7's attack. Very helpful. But if that sounds like a load of rubbish to you, you're right. You are absolutely correct. The headlines are all saying, UN recognizes Palestine, but it's false. As always, they forget to mention that this is non-binding. It creates no borders, no sovereignty, no state. It's a PR stunt to show solidarity with the Palestinians and to build out a plan that anyone who understands anything about what happens here knows won't work. The idea of a two-state solution is a farce. It's the kind of babble rhetoric the West loves, but that actually does nothing. You all know that the Palestinians have been offered a state multiple times, and they always say no because they don't want a state. They want to take over Israel. This is something that the West obviously really struggles to comprehend and understand. So why won't this motion actually do anything? Well, a statehood requires four things. Number one, permanent population. Okay, the Palestinians have that. It just keeps on growing despite a genocide. Number two, defined territory. They don't have borders. Their borders are our land. Number three, a government that exercises effective control. Hamas in Gaza, PA in Judea and Samaria, but they're fighting each other. There isn't one group. Capacity, number four, to enter relations as a state. In theory, yes, but not in practice. Repeated refusals to negotiate, internal spids, governments by terror, incentives, all this stuff means that they can kind of do it, but not really. So the UN resolution actually changes nothing on the ground. But this is the key. It's symbolic, and symbolism moves politics. Look, to Israel, this doesn't change much. Oh, yay! More countries are stupid and more proof that the UN hates us. But if you look deeper, this shows us just how much we are failing the West. When it comes to hard power, military, Israel is at the forefront of keeping terrorism at bay. We know how to fight back, to stop it, to create ramifications. But in today's world, you also need soft power. That's what changes culture, motivates the media, gets the votes that bring in political power. Israel wins tactically with hard power, but we've been out organized in every direction on soft power. And we're letting the West down. They're becoming their own worst enemy, and we aren't pulling our weight to save them. By not building out soft power, you get a UN parade for statehood by 142 countries when the would-be states pay salaries to terrorists. Look at reality. Days before this vote, 6 Israelis were murdered outside of my house by two gunmen from Judea and Samaria. Their families, by policy, now receive monthly stipends from the Palestinian Authority's Martyrs Fund. And that's the governing culture that this resolution indulges and wants to help. Look at the culture war. More than 4,000 actors and filmmakers have pledged to boycott Israeli films. And yes, even Emma Stone is on the list. They are boycotting Israeli institutions, but they're happily working with China and Russia and Iran. It's not moral courage. It's soft power warfare dressed up as a conscience. And it works because we let it. We treat narrative like an afterthought, and they treat it like a real battlefield. 10 countries voted no. Obviously, the United States and Israel, Argentina, Hungary, and 12 abstained. But 142 signed this bogus thing. That's proof that Qatar's strategy is working in 142 countries, and we have our work cut out for us. This resolution shouldn't make us scared for what it might mean, because it means in reality nothing. There will be no Palestinian state, in the words of Bibi Netanyahu, but also in the words of me. But it's an indicator of how bad things are, and that should give us conviction, not fear. Yes, this will build pressure on us as well. We might see more arms embargoes, more boycotts, more diplomatic harassment, yada, yada, yada. But this is a red, big flag for us as a nation that believes in being a light and a beacon of moral clarity to the world. The soft power war is escalating whilst we're fixated on the battlefield. If we keep leaving the narrative arena empty, radical Islam and its fellow travelers win, and they haven't needed to fire a shot. We must stop pretending that this war against Hamas is only a military problem. We need a strategy for diplomacy, lawfare, culture, and media. Our own soft power. They've got Al Jazeera. We've got JNS, and we have to grow. Go straight at the culture narratives, not with apologetics, but with moral clarity and professional, persistent communication. We are at a crossroads. Will the West keep rewarding terror with symbolic trophies, resolutions, boycotts, standing ovations because it's easy and fashionable? Or will we finally say no statehood without borders, no recognition without responsible governance, no money for murderers? October 7th will not be rewarded. And back Israel when it asserts what should be absolutely accepted statements. Are we going to keep letting others define us in their story or write our own? Diplomatically, culturally, legally, with the same focus that we bring to the battlefield, because it's all one and the same. Charlie, are we going to continue to allow the West to self-destruct and celebrate it whilst it happens, to cross red lines, to not set ramifications, and to fight back? Qatar, are we going to keep protecting and enabling those who want us destroyed? Are we going to stay scared because of diplomacy? And the UN, are we going to keep rewarding evil with diplomacy and avoid the need to be a light upon the nations here as well? These are not random stories. They are all warning lights, and they say the same thing. Either the West recovers its backbone or it keeps outsourcing morality to mobs and mediators and meaningless votes. Here's the good news. The public is waking up. People are choosing sides. Because the mask is off. We can see that it is evil. But clarity only matters if it becomes action. Defend free speech with real courage. Use strength unapologetically against those who trade in murder. And fight the soft war power with the same seriousness as the military one. That's the crossroads, and the time to make the change really is now. I'm Meira, and I'll see you next time.